Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're your shortcut to understanding some of the most, well, complex figures shaping our world today. And today, we're diving into someone whose career path is it's almost unbelievable.
It really is.
We're talking about Bassem Youssef, a man who spent 13 years, 13 intense years, as a practicing cardiothoracic surgeon, saving lives, literally, with a scalpel.
Yeah, high-stakes stuff.
Only to trade all that in for a microphone.
Yeah.
Becoming this political satirist whose voice didn't just comment on a revolution, it arguably helped fuel it, and then critique it.
It's an incredible pivot, isn't it? The ultimate high-stakes career change. Nassim Bernameg Youssef, born back in 1974 in Cairo.
Right.
He's Egyptian-American now, comedian, host, actor, and yeah, former physician. His whole story is just packed with these paradoxes. How does this, super successful, meticulous doctor become a cultural icon, a revolutionary figure?
And now, more recently, this really prominent global voice, particularly advocating for Palestinians. So that's our mission today. We're going to trace that journey. We'll pull out those key moments, those turning points that help explain how he navigated, well, frankly, extreme political chaos in the Middle East. And then how he translated that really unique, sometimes brutal experience into this powerful voice that's now aimed squarely at the West.
And just to give you a sense of the kind of influence we're talking about, back in 2013, at the absolute peak of his fame in Egypt, Time magazine named him one of the 100 most influential people globally.
Wow. Time 100.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Foreign Policy magazine put him on their list of 100 leading global thinkers that same year. He was often called, maybe you've heard this, Egypt's Jon Stewart.
I have heard that comparison.
But we're going to dig into how he earned that title and, crucially, why his story absolutely did not end when Egypt basically forced him out.
Okay, let's do it. Section 1, then. I'm making a Dr. Youssef. Before the jokes, before the controversy, there was medicine. Deeply serious medicine.
Yeah, and we're not talking about just any medicine. We're talking about the absolute top tier of specialized, high-stress surgical knowledge. He graduated from Cairo University's Faculty of Medicine. That was back in 1998.
Okay.
And his specialty was cardiothoracic surgery. So heart, lungs, chest cavity, the kind of stuff where, every single day the stakes are literally life and death.
It's hard to imagine a higher pressure job, really. And he didn't just graduate. He pushed for international recognition, right?
Absolutely. His qualifications are, well, they're pretty staggering. He passed the U.S. Medical Licensing Examination, that's the USMLE. It's notoriously difficult, multiple steps you need it to practice in the States.
Right.
And he also became a member of the Royal College of Surgeons, the MRCS, in 2007. That's a huge deal in the British surgical training system. Shows real skill, real dedication.
So 13 years he practiced this specialty in Egypt.
13 years. Think about that. Over a decade doing these incredibly complex, exhausting operations. And his training wasn't just in Egypt, it was global. He did highly specialized work in Germany, focusing on cardiac and lung transplantation. Very advanced stuff. And he also spent about, I think, 18 months in the U.S. He was working for a medical equipment company there, specifically focused on cardiothoracic devices.
So this wasn't someone dabbling. This was a fully established, highly respected, probably pretty well-off, internationally recognized surgeon.
Totally. Secure career path laid out.
And it's interesting how he talks about that surgical training, how it shaped him beyond medicine. He said it made him a much harder working person, a nerd, a perfectionist.
Right. And you can see how that maps onto satire, can't you?
Exactly. That perfectionism, that need to dissect arguments, spot the flaws, understand the intricate details. It's kind of the same skill set, just applied differently.
Yeah, the precision required is similar, I think. Surgery needs that cool logic, efficiency. Think's the problem right now. You have to suppress emotion. But with satire, he's suddenly using emotion, anger, humor, that shared frustration to diagnose and maybe treat a societal problem. The precision is still there, but the tool changes. The scalpel becomes, I don't know, a rhetorical weapon.
A very sharp one in his case. But the thing that actually triggered this massive life change wasn't some intellectual exercise in the sterile OR. It was chaos. It was Tahrir Square, January 2011.
Yeah, that's the absolute turning point. During the Egyptian Revolution, things got violent very quickly. And Youssef, Dr. Youssef then, was physically there in the square, using his medical skills, treating the wounded.
So he saw it firsthand, the human cost.
Directly. the immediate bloody reality of political upheaval. And that experience, it seems, provided the unavoidable context for saying, okay, I need to do something else.
It wasn't just about patching people up anymore. He saw the bigger sickness was political.
Exactly. Maybe he felt that ethical duty shifted. Fixing the physical wounds wasn't addressing the root cause. That needed a different kind of intervention.
And that intervention started, improbably, in his laundry room.
Which brings us perfectly to Section 2, the breakthrough in Egypt. This is the rise and eventually the fall of his satire there, roughly 2011 to 2014. And yeah, the beginning is just wonderfully DIY.
The ultimate accidental media mogul story, right? The B-plus show.
Mm-hmm. The idea apparently came from a friend, Tarek El-Kazaz. They were just watching the revolution unfold, frustrated with the official media coverage, and thought, let's make our own.
And the production values, or lack thereof, were key.
Totally key. No fancy studio. He shot it in his own laundry room. One camera, the set, a table, a chair, and this homemade mural of photos from Tahrir Square that cost like $100.
Amazing. Pure grassroots stuff, bypassing all the gatekeepers.
Completely. And the name, the B-plus show, apparently named after his blood type, just adds to the absurdity.
Right. These were short, like 5-minute episodes, uploaded straight to YouTube starting May 2011.
Yep. Punchy, sharp, hitting hard. Using this platform, the regime couldn't easily shut down, at least not initially, and it gave voice to so many Egyptians who felt ignored or misrepresented by traditional media.
And the reaction. Did people notice?
Notice. It exploded. Instantly. In just the first 3 months, it got over 5 million views. 5 million.
Wow. Okay, that's serious traction.
It showed this massive pent-up demand for critical voices, for humor, for someone just cutting through the official narratives about the revolution.
It wasn't just a viral hit. It was like proof of concept. This guy had talent, he connected, and digital platforms could route around the old power structure.
Absolutely. And that success, that massive online footprint, it couldn't be ignored by the old media, which leads directly to the next phase, Bernameg, the program.
This is where it goes from laundry room to national spotlight, the first big internet-to-TV conversion in the region.
That's right. The success was so undeniable that ONTV, owned by the Egyptian billionaire Naguib Sawiris, offered him a deal, a proper news satire show.
And this is where he ditches the plans to move to the U.S.
Exactly. He literally had plans, apparently, to move to Cleveland, Ohio to practice medicine. He scrapped them, signed the TV deal, became the first real YouTube star to make that leap to mainstream television in the entire Middle East. A huge moment.
So, Bernameg, what was the scale like compared to the B-plus show?
Oh, completely different league. It ran for 104 episodes over 3 seasons. The initial budget was already significant, around $500,000, and it grew fast.
And the format evolved, too.
Yeah, it wasn't just him doing satirical monologues anymore. It became more like a variety show. He started hosting public figures, artists, musicians, diving into cultural issues alongside the politics. Much broader scope.
And the production itself got bigger. They moved studios.
They did. They started in ONTV's smallest studio, apparently. But the show got so huge, they moved to the beautifully restored radio theater in downtown Cairo.
The radio theater. That sounds impressive.
It was. And it meant Bernameg became the first show in Egypt to be taped in front of a live audience. Imagine that energy. It wasn't just TV. It felt like a weekly event, a gathering point for dissent and laughter.
The numbers must have been incredible.
Almost unbelievable, honestly. The show's commercial value reportedly increased 8 times in just 1 year. Viewership, forget about it. 40 million people watching on TV regularly.
40 million.
In Egypt.
Yeah. And the second season alone got over 184 million views combined on YouTube. His YouTube channel, by the way, was the first in the whole Middle East and North Africa region to hit 1 million subscribers. Got the gold play button and everything. So he wasn't just popular. He was defining the media landscape, creating this whole ecosystem around political comedy.
Totally. The B-plus show in Bernameg inspired tons of other people, amateur comedians, activists, to start their own social media channels, critiques, parodies. It really did feel like it democratized political commentary in Egypt for a time.
And this is when the international comparison started, especially with Jon Stewart.
Exactly. Stewart himself was clearly watching and was very impressed. In June 2012, Youssef flew to New York, was a guest on The Daily Show. Stewart praised Bernameg, called it sharp, smart, well-executed, high praise from the master.
That's a massive endorsement. Did Stewart ever appear on Youssef's show?
He did. The connection went both ways. Stewart actually came to Cairo and was a guest on Bernameg in June 2013. That really cemented its status, didn't it? Not just a local hit, but a globally recognized platform.
But doing this kind of sharp, critical comedy, especially in a place like post-revolution Egypt where everything's unstable and power is shifting, that's inherently risky, right?
Extremely risky. Which leads us straight into the next part, section 2.3, facing the backlash, the political heat, and the legal challenges.
It sounds like he almost invited trouble from the start.
Well, maybe unintentionally. In his very first season premiere on ONTV, he actually parodied the channel's owner, Satirist, and some of his coworkers. His way of saying, hey, I have freedom of expression.
Bold move. How did that go down?
Let's just say the political climate wasn't really conducive to that level of freedom for long. The pushback started fast.
Okay.
Just 3 episodes into his second season, when he'd moved to a different channel, CBC, the lawsuits began. And these weren't trivial complaints.
What were the charges?
Really serious stuff. Insulting Islam, insulting the president at the time, Mohammed Morsi, disrupting public order and peace. Basically, they used religion and national security as weapons to try and shut him down.
Standard authoritarian playbook, sadly. Did it escalate?
Oh, yeah, big time. In March 2013, he was officially put under investigation for circulating false news likely to disturb public peace. And then, the big one, an arrest warrant was issued.
An arrest warrant? For a comedian?
For allegedly insulting Islam and President Morsi. The state was making a very clear move to silence its most popular critic.
How did Youssef react to the warrant? That must have been terrifying.
His reaction was classic Bassem Youssef. Instead of hiding, he went on Twitter. And he joked about it. He tweeted something like, unless they kindly send a police van today and save me the transportation hassle.
Huh. That's gutsy. Defiant humor.
Totally. And that tweet just exploded internationally, drew massive media attention to his situation.
So what happened? Did they arrest him?
He turned himself in the next day, went in for questioning, and was eventually released on bail, 15,000 Egyptian pounds. But the whole incident shone a huge spotlight on the situation, got international support, including very publicly from Jon Stewart again. It really cemented Youssef as the symbol of free speech under pressure in the Middle East.
And he wasn't just doing the TV show, right? He was writing, too.
That's right. He had a weekly column in Al-Sharuk, an independent newspaper. And he used that platform to push boundaries even further. He tackled really sensitive, taboo subjects head-on, things like atheism. He even questioned the widely held view in conservative circles that leaving Islam, apostasy, should be a crime punishable by death. He was poking the bear on every front, political, social, religious.
Fearless. But there was also an incident that damaged his credibility somewhat, wasn't there? The plagiarism accusation.
Yes, that's important context, too. In March 2014, this came up. He published an article about Russia in his Al-Sharuk column. And pretty quickly, people online, especially on Twitter, noticed it was very, very similar to an article by a British writer, Ben Judah.
Ouch. That's not good for a commentator.
Not at all. He did issue an apology quite quickly in the newspaper, admitting he hadn't cited his references properly. But in that supercharged, polarized environment,
his opponents jumped all over it.
Immediately. The state-backed media used it relentlessly to try and paint him as unethical, undermine his credibility. It was a genuine mistake, it seems, but it showed how any slip-up could be weaponized against a powerful critic. The standard he was held to was impossibly high.
That fragility, that constant pressure, it sets the stage for the next dramatic turn, doesn't it? Section 3, the political paradox and emigration. This is 2013-2014. Things get even more complicated.
Absolutely. This period is crucial for understanding his whole trajectory, because his stance during and after the coup wasn't simple at all.
Okay, let's unpack that. So, 2013, the military steps in. President Morsi is ousted in a coup d'etat. What did Youssef do when Bernameg came back on air?
He did something incredibly brave, or perhaps reckless, depending on your view. He didn't just keep criticizing the ousted Morsi administration, which would have been safe. He also started criticizing the massive wave of popular adoration for the new military leader, Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, who was then the defense minister.
So he went after both sides, the Islamists and the military figure who was becoming a national hero.
Exactly, which put him in an incredibly precarious position. He was alienating almost everyone with power.
But, and this is the really complex part, right? Wasn't he actually supportive of the coup initially?
Yes, and this is critical. Sources show he was, initially, a consistent and vocal supporter of the military intervention that removed Morsi. He even said publicly he was very glad it happened. He supported the coup and the media clampdown that came with it at first.
Why? What was his reasoning?
His opposition to the Muslim Brotherhood, Morsi's party, was intense, extremely intense. He used very strong language, reportedly calling the MB the new form of Nazis.
Wow, that's strong language.
Very, and there's more. When security forces killed dozens of MB supporters during protests, he apparently tweeted something to the effect that it was blood for publicity, essentially blaming the Muslim Brotherhood itself for the deaths.
Okay, that's a tough position to square with being a pure free speech advocate. How do we understand that?
Well, some analysis, like Max Fisher writing for Vox at the time, suggested that Youssef's rhetoric, by framing Egyptians who supported the Islamist government as internal enemies, actually contributed to the dangerous polarization that was happening. It wasn't just criticizing policy, it was arguably vilifying a segment of the population.
So he supported the coup that removed one perceived threat, the Islamists.
Right. But then almost immediately, he couldn't stomach the idea of the new power, the military under Sisi, becoming untouchable. He started applying the same satirical critique to them. He refused to accept a new strongman, even one he'd initially welcomed as an alternative. That uncompromising demand for accountability no matter who was in charge.
That's what ultimately did him in, professionally speaking.
It seems so. The TV network, CBC, clearly felt the political winds shift. Sisi was becoming incredibly popular, almost deified. They couldn't tolerate Youssef's criticism of the military anymore. They issued a statement distancing themselves, and then, boom, terminated his contract.
Censorship, plain and simple.
Pretty much. And the legal pressure ramped up again, instantly. Over 30 new complaints filed against him.
What were the charges this time?
Now it was about insulting the Egyptian armed forces, the military itself, and insulting the interim president, Adli Mansour, and, crucially, for describing the June 30th protest, which the state narrative framed as a purely popular uprising, as a military coup. That framing was completely unacceptable to the new regime.
But he didn't stop even then. He moved the show again.
Briefly, yeah. He managed to get Bernameg picked up by NBC, MASR, another channel, in early 2014. And what did he do? He doubled down.
Oh.
He went after this bizarre claim the Egyptian military was making at the time that they had invented miracle devices that could cure hepatitis C and even AIDS.
Seriously, the military was claiming that.
Yes, and Youssef just mercilessly mocked it, used his comedy to expose how absurd and potentially dangerous it was for the military to be making these pseudo-scientific health claims.
That must have been the last straw.
It absolutely was, mocking the military's prestige, their supposed scientific prowess. That was unforgivable. The show was pulled off the air permanently in June 2014. Youssef himself said later it was just too dangerous. The political climate made continuing impossible. Satire had hit a wall in Sisi's Egypt.
And the state made sure he knew the game was over. Which takes us to section 3.2. Exile and the legal fallout.
Yeah, the harassment wasn't subtle. Once the show was finally canceled for good, the Egyptian police, now firmly under Sisi's control, raided the offices of the show's production company.
Raided the offices.
Arrested employees, confiscated computers. It was a clear message. We can get to you. We can get to your people.
Pure intimidation.
And target intimidation. The police apparently told the show's producer, Amr Ismail, directly, this harassment won't stop if Bassem keeps speaking out, even at international conferences. They wanted total silence, domestic and global.
So what did Youssef do?
He saw the writing on the wall. He knew arrest was likely inevitable if he stayed. Any voice of dissent was being crushed. So he fled, left Egypt for Dubai on November 11th, 2014.
And he hasn't been back.
No. He's been very clear. He refuses to return to Egypt as long as Abdel Fattah el-Sisi is in power. Exile became his reality.
Did the legal troubles follow him?
They tried to make them. The Egyptian courts hit him with this enormous fine, 50 million Egyptian pounds, related to the broken contract with CBC.
50 million pounds. That's a fortune.
Yeah.
Tens of millions of dollars.
Exactly. It looked like an attempt to cripple him financially, even in exile.
Was he forced to pay it?
Fortunately for him, that specific judgment was eventually overturned by a higher court, the Court of Cassation, in 2018. But the initial message was stark. Criticizing the regime would cost you your freedom, your career, and potentially your financial future. The surgeon who relied on precision had to make a very precise escape.
And that escape didn't lead to silence. It led to a whole new chapter, Section 4, the American chapter, from 2015 onwards. He arrives in the U.S. not just as a comedian, but as something more.
Definitely. He landed on his feet, intellectually speaking, almost immediately. Spring 2015, he's appointed a resident fellow at Harvard University's Institute of Politics, the IOP at the Kennedy School.
Harvard. That's a pretty prestigious landing pad.
It showed that top institutions recognized the value of his unique lived experience. He wasn't just talking about political pressure, he'd survived it.
And he continued that academic path.
He did. Fall 2016, he moved to the West Coast, visiting scholar at Stanford University's Center on Democracy, Development, and the Rule of Law, CDDRL, they call it.
And what was he researching there?
Fittingly, he was researching the very topic that defined his career and exile: political satire and its role in disrupting political, social, and religious taboos.
So he was basically studying himself in a way, analyzing his own story through an academic lens.
Kind of, yeah, using his own chaotic, high-stakes history as a case study, applying that surgeon's precision, maybe, to dissect why satire works, when it fails, and exactly how political systems react to being mocked, why they sometimes need to crush humor.
But he wasn't just hidden away in academia. He stayed visible in entertainment, too.
Oh, yeah. November 2015, he hosts the 43rd International Emmy Awards in New York City, still playing on that global stage.
And his own story became a subject itself, right? The documentary.
Exactly. Tickling Giants, the documentary about his life and his time doing Bernameg, came out in 2017. It was directed by Sarah Taxler, who used to be a producer on The Daily Show.
The Jon Stewart connection again?
Right. That film really brought his story, the triumphs, the threats, the sheer danger, to a much wider international audience, showed people what it really meant to be a satirist under that kind of authoritarian pressure.
He also wrote a book around that time?
Yep. Revolution for Dummies. Laughing Through the Arab Spring, also 2017. He was actively trying to translate the lessons of that period, both the successes and the failures of the Arab Spring, for a Western audience that maybe only saw the headlines.
Did he try to get back into satire about the U.S.?
He did. In 2016, he developed a show called Democracy Handbook with Bassem Youssef. It was for Fusion's digital platform. And it was basically him applying that same critical lens he'd honed in Egypt, dissecting absurd political claims and hypocrisy, but turning it onto American politics.
Oh, there you go.
It was smart, but maybe didn't find the massive audience Bernameg had. It seems like after that, he pivoted again, diversifying his work in the U.S. quite a bit.
Into acting.
Yeah, increasingly into acting and voice acting, which is interesting. He's done voice work for animated shows like DuckTales and Apple and Onion, and he's had noticeable live-action roles in some really well-regarded shows. Mo, Raimi, Special Ops, Lioness, Upload.
That's quite a range. Does it suggest maybe political commentary in the U.S. was harder to break into, or maybe just less appealing after his Egyptian experience?
Could be either, or both.
Yeah.
Maybe finding safer, different creative outlets felt necessary after everything he'd been through. It definitely shows his adaptability, though.
Okay, before we get to his most recent, very high-profile resurgence, let's just quickly ground things personally. He's settled in the U.S. now.
Yes. He married Hala Diab back in 2010. They have 2 children. They live in Los Angeles. And importantly, he became a naturalized U.S. citizen in 2019.
Right. And there's a crucial detail about his wife's background, isn't there? One that connects directly to his current advocacy.
Yes, absolutely vital context. His wife, Hala, is half Egyptian and half Palestinian. Her family has a direct personal history with the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. They were displaced from Ramla, which is now in Israel, to the Gaza Strip during the 1948 Arab-Israeli War, what Palestinians call the Nakba, the catastrophe.
So for him, the Palestinian issue isn't just abstract politics, it's family history, it's personal.
Deeply personal. And that brings us right up to the present. Section 5. Global advocacy and viral influence, mainly from 2023 onwards. He went from relatively quiet acting work back into the global spotlight. Hard.
And it really kicked off with that Piers Morgan interview, didn't it? October 2023.
Instantly viral. The timing was critical. The world was reeling from the October 7th attacks by Hamas, and Israel's immediate, intense military response in Gaza was just beginning. Youssef appeared virtually on Piers Morgan Uncensored, and he just unleashed.
Unleashed how? What was his approach?
He went back to his roots. Satire. Full-on satirical mode. But this time, he was using it to try and explain the complexities of the conflict, the history, the power dynamics, to a Western audience that maybe wasn't getting the full picture.
What was the core of his critique?
He was scathing about the Israeli military tactics. But the killer blow, the line that went everywhere, was when he rhetorically asked how the West would be reacting if the exact same military actions happening in Gaza were being carried out by, say, Russian troops in Ukraine.
Drawing that direct comparison. Given the West's unified condemnation of Russia's invasion.
Exactly. It was designed to expose perceived double standards in Western reactions to international conflicts. It was provocative, sharp, and incredibly effective messaging for the social media age.
And it worked. The interview got noticed.
Noticed is an understatement. That clip absolutely exploded online. 17 million views in just 5 days. It became, by far, the most viewed video on Piers Morgan's channel at the time.
Wow. So he proved his satirical skills translated perfectly from Arabic in Egypt to English on a global platform.
Seamlessly, he showed he could still craft those incredibly potent, shareable sound bites that cut through the noise.
But he went back on Morgan's show again, didn't he? In person this time. Was the tone different?
Completely different, yes. That was in November 2023. He came back for an in-person debate, and this time, as Morgan himself noted, Youssef mostly refrained from satire.
So what was this focus then?
It was a much more serious, intense discussion. They got deep into really thorny issues. Anti-Semitism versus anti-Zionism, the historical roots of the conflict going back decades. He showed he could switch gears, use that surgeon's precision for intellectual argument, not just comedic effect. It proved he wasn't just a funny guy, he was a serious thinker who'd lived through political extremes.
And since those appearances, he's kept up the advocacy.
Relentlessly. He's become arguably one of the most prominent voices, offering a pro-Palestinian perspective and historical context in Western media. He's been on major platforms constantly, the PBD podcast, Lex Fridman's podcast, ABC News Australia, BBC's Hard Talk. He's really positioned himself as a key translator of the conflict for English-speaking audiences.
Has this translated into specific political stances, say, in the U.S.?
Yes. He made waves regarding the 2024 U.S. presidential election. He stated very clearly he didn't care if Donald Trump won, but he actively did not want President Joe Biden to be reelected.
Why specifically Biden? What was his reasoning?
It boiled down to one core issue for him, the handling of the Gaza war. His quote was direct. All we asked him Biden for was a ceasefire. Stop the killing. Stop the killing.
So connecting his advocacy directly to U.S. electoral politics, seeing the lack of a ceasefire as a disqualifying issue for Biden's presidency.
Pretty much. It reflects that perspective of someone who's seen the human cost of political decisions up close. For him, the immediate humanitarian demand, stop the killing, outweighed other political calculations like the lesser of two evils argument. It's a stark ethical position.
Has his renewed prominence led to any other forms of recognition or activity?
Yes, quite a bit. Echoing those accolades from 2013, he's been active and recognized again. He signed the Artists for Ceasefire open letter back in October 2023. Then in May 2024, Trinity College Dublin awarded him their gold medal for outstanding contribution to public discourse.
And he's getting involved in building new media platforms, too.
Right. In April 2024, he teamed up with Mehdi Hasan, another journalist known for sharp critique, at Hasan's new media company, Ziteo. Youssef is co-hosting a podcast called We're Not Kidding.
Interesting. Seems like he's trying to build spaces for the kind of independent commentary that got him exiled from Egypt, but this time in the West.
That seems like a fair reading. Having experienced the vulnerability of relying on established media that can bow to political pressure, maybe he's focused on building something more protected, more independent.
And his commitment extends to his acting work as well.
Apparently so. In September 2025, note, outline date likely meant 2024 or earlier, he reportedly signed the Filmworkers for Palestine Open Pledge. That pledge commits signatories to not working with Israeli film institutions that they deem implicated in genocide and apartheid.
So, carrying his political convictions right into his professional choices in the entertainment industry. No separation.
It demonstrates a real consistency, applying his beliefs across the board. Art and activism deeply intertwined.
Okay. We've covered an incredible amount of ground. The surgeon, the reluctant activist, the superstar satirist, the exile, the academic, the actor, and now this global advocate. It's time to try and make sense of it all.
Section 6. So, what does this all mean?
For me, the thing that just keeps resonating is that central paradox we started with. The guy trained for meticulous, life-saving precision in surgery, and then chose this path of maximum political risk. He gave up a life of real comfort, security, prestige in Cairo, a life healing tangible wounds for the completely unpredictable, dangerous path of political commentary.
It's extraordinary, and his adaptability is just undeniable, isn't it? How he took that very specific local critique he was doing in Arabic, during the
Yeah.
revolution, and then pivoted to deliver this sophisticated, often still funny, but deeply serious global commentary in English about Gaza, about U.S. politics, about global power dynamics. He proved that the core method of satire, the dissection, the finding hypocrisy, the ridicule, it works anywhere. The language changes, the context changes, but the tool is universal.
And we have to circle back to how he got started. The internet, YouTube, that B+ show. It's such a powerful example of how independent digital media can just bypass everything.
Absolutely. The speed at which YouTube launched him from total obscurity to national, then regional fame, it shows how those platforms could, at least for a time, break the stranglehold of state media. His whole career is basically a case study in how one person, armed with wit and a webcam, could challenge powerful regimes. Not just one, but two, Morsi's government and Sisi's military state.
And even after being forced out, he finds a way to remain relevant, to keep provoking debate on a global scale.
It really validates the idea that laughter, satire can be a revolutionary force, even if, as happened to him, the revolution eventually eats its own comedians.
His story definitely forces you to think about the real cost of speaking truth to power.
Constantly.
Okay, so to wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you, the listener, with a final thought to chew on. A provocative question building on everything we've discussed about Bassem Youssef's journey. Given his direct experience being censored, threatened, ultimately exiled, after he criticized both an Islamist regime and a military dictatorship, what really is the fundamental difference between doing political satire in a place like that, a volatile autocracy where the consequences are immediate and physical,
Right. Jail, exile.
versus trying to do it in a place like the United States, a system that's nominally democratic but intensely polarized?
Think about it. In Egypt, crossing the line meant police raids, arrest warrants, fleeing the country. In the West, crossing a line, especially online, often means facing cancellation, getting deplatformed, maybe losing sponsors, or just getting drowned out in the sheer noise and outrage from opposing sides.
So the question is, where does effective free expression face the bigger challenge today? Which kind of pressure is ultimately harder for truth, or even just critical satire, to survive? Is it the autocrat's fist, that immediate violent threat? Or is it the slow grind of polarized outrage, algorithmic suppression, and maybe institutional capture in a democracy?
That's the question Bassem Youssef's life forces us to grapple with. Where are the real boundaries and the real dangers for free expression now?